Hello, and welcome to our virtual presentation today. My name is Jackie Dorweiler. I'm a parent educator with Lee Summit School District, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Maureen Reed. I'm also a parent educator with the Parents as Teachers program here in Lee Summit.
Awesome. And we'll be sharing some slides today as we go through our video presentation. We just want you to know to feel welcome to take notes, jot down any questions as you think of them. And if you would like to, take a picture of any of the slides so you can remember them and save them for later. A week from today, on March 16th, we'll also have a live Q&A session. We would love for you to come back and join us with any questions you jotted down, to visit about those. And at the end of our slide presentation today, there will be a link so that you can join us next week. We're going to get started. All right. Our topic today is to focus on the power of love and attention through conscious discipline. And today we are going to continue our series of the 7 powers of conscious adults, which are listed here as we dig into the 5th and 6th powers of love and attention. The link listed at the bottom of this will give you more details on each of these 7 powers. It's the Conscious Discipline website, and there's several videos and examples that dig deeper into each of these powers if you want to refer back to them. As mentioned before, this is our video series. We are going to do the 3rd part today in a 4-part series of the 7 powers of conscious discipline. If you've not already had a chance to watch our first 2 videos on our Lee Summit Parents as Teachers YouTube page, we would really encourage you to do that. The videos run about 20 to 30 minutes, have great information on parenting and positivity. And like it says here, the first video focuses on I love you rituals, and the second one on tantrums and fits that also focus around the powers of conscious adults. We're going to start with a short review on the main components of conscious discipline. The first picture you kind of see there on your screen is the brain state model. This is the basis of the conscious discipline approach. And this is kind of a review for us. It's been shown in all of our other videos as well, but such good information to keep reviewing. The red part is your brain stem, the survival state. This is the need for safety, the question asking, am I safe? The blue part is the limbic system, and that's our emotional state, the need for connection and love. And the top part is your frontal lobe, the executive state. This is our problem-solving area, the need for asking questions and problem-solving. What can I learn from this? This is that optimal state that we want to be in, where we can pause and take a deep breath. On this slide, you'll also see some other resources that Conscious Discipline offers. The I love you rituals examples, they've talked about those in our first video. They go into more detail, but this is just a visual for you. There are visual charts on feelings, which is really important because children spend most of their time in their survival and emotional state, and it's helpful if they can have a visual of that for their learning. There's also the calming cues at the very bottom. And all of these, again, are resources that can be found on the consciousdiscipline.com website. A lot of them are free printables for you. So let's dig into the power of love. This is the 5th power of conscious parenting. Just going to read a little bit from the slide and then give some examples for you as well. The power of love is choosing to see the best in others. The goal behind this is if we see the best in others, we can keep ourselves in the higher centers of our brain in that executive state, and then we can consciously respond to those things by pausing and taking a deep breath instead of unconsciously reacting to life events. This is a really simple one to demonstrate and an easy one to experience. So I'd like for you to do this with me. Right now, I want you to maybe close your eyes and just take a moment to think of someone that you adore and just put them in your mind and let that bubble up inside of you. Put your focus on your heart, and I want you to take a deep breath with me and wish that person well. Now take a moment and think about, how am I feeling right now? When you put that person in your heart and on your mind, how does that make you feel? I know for me, there's that one person, and it makes me feel so much love inside and just gratitude and appreciation. When you extend that well wish to them, you feel that love and gratitude inside. And the same happens with the opposite. If I judge or we see people to be lacking or bad or wrong, then that generates that state inside of us as well of irritation or lack. What we offer to others, we generate inside ourselves. So basically, at the bottom of this, when we access that power of love, we think about it and fill it up inside, we're able to see that behavior and as communication and teach children new skills. We can't offer basically and that's okay, we're on the next slide, but we can't offer love to others and keep that hate inside. And we can't offer, so we have to keep that inside of us. Yeah, so the next slide, just as a review as well, just going back to that brain, mind, body state model that conscious discipline uses a lot. It's really important in the power of love. It's kind of, like I said, just a review in our past 2 videos, but it's important to remember that we all go through life asking these questions in this order. And if we answer no to one of the questions, we can't move on to the next one, which kind of keeps us stuck in that part of our brain trying to figure out a coping skill. For example, at the bottom, am I safe? That's that brain stem again, that fight or flight mode. And if we answer no, we can't move on to number 2, asking, am I loved? And that's that state of needing connection and love, things like that. And then if we can answer yes to that, we can move up to the executive state of what can I learn? And that's ready for learning, ready to take in, to problem solve, to take a deep breath, and to learn new skills for life. So remember, that's the goal, to be in the executive state, and the power of love can help us get there. This is just a little cartoon visual, and I really want you to think about, as you're listening today, what lenses are you looking through when you're parenting, when behavior comes up, when poor choices that kids make, or adults even, what lens are you looking through? And we get to choose. We get to make this up, the intent of others. Kind of an example in adult life is if someone tells you they're going to call you on Friday night to get together and they don't, you get to decide what was their intent. You get to make it up because we really don't know. Did they forget to call? Did they find something better to do? Did something happen? We get to choose. And it's the same with parenting. We can see this as negative intent when they misbehave, or positive intent. And we see that in negative intent, it's kind of like we're saying, he just wants to get under my skin, or she's just trying to be disrespectful and mean. We kind of define their core as bad in negative intent. And this also keeps kids stuck in the lower centers of their brain. They cannot answer yes to those questions, am I safe or am I loved? Therefore, they can't move on to that top part of their brain where they can problem solve. So in this case, when we see those things with negative intent, then a child learns to cope with rejection instead of learning a new skill that they could use for life. When we see it with positive intent, let's just assume, because we get to make it up, remember? Let's just assume that instead of just being mean or wanting to hurt someone, we make this up with positive intent. And the example could be, maybe the child, like in this visual, maybe the child just wanted the ball, so they pushed. We could say, oh, you wanted the ball? Say, may I have a turn? Or maybe the child wanted to answer the question, but forgot to raise their hand, and so on. We can say, oh, you wanted to answer the question, I couldn't tell. Your hand wasn't up. Next time, let's try this. So if we assume positive intent, here are some things that happen. These are just some ways that help. If we can assume, if we can keep it inside of us, keep that love inside of us and assume positive intent, then these are just some things. Like I said, you can take a picture of this you want. I'm just going to kind of talk about some things that might help. If we assume that positive intent, we define the core of the child as good. The behavior may need tweaking, but with their core, we just define them as good. And that helps lift the child to a higher centers of their brain where they can answer yes to, am I safe and am I loved? So now we can problem solve together. We can help, meet their needs and learn new skills. And the child will learn that social emotional skill for life. So we're going to assume that all challenging behaviors are a call for help. And we're going to stay in that power of love so that we can teach them healthy ways to meet their needs. Let's talk about some examples. This is what it might sound like. Negative versus positive intent might sound like in home. Responses to a negative intent, if you're in that approach, is the child misbehaves or the child doesn't do what you ask. And you say, you know better than that. What should you be doing? Go to timeout. Why did you do that? Things like that, where it's a negative response. Yes, they probably know, but we want to go back to that teaching mode. So responses with positive intent may sound like you wanted that truck. Say, may I have a turn? Or you wanted the ball. Say, can I have a turn, please? You wanted my attention instead of, hitting on me or pulling on my clothes. Next time, maybe tap me and I'll give you my attention. I'll turn and look at you. Or you could say, you didn't want the blue shirt. May I wear a different one? You didn't want that cheese stick. May I have something else? And other words you can use are pushing hurts. You may not push others, and teach them. Then in turn, we teach them what they can do next time. These are just some examples. There'll be more as we go throughout our presentation today. And some other things you can do for the power of love are things like wish you well boards and a kindness tree, which are visuals here. These are just additional ways to show positive intent, to keep that within your household. And these can look very different. The wish you well board has a heart in the middle, it doesn't have to be a tray or anything like that, but you just can make a heart in the middle. And then you can do photos or just names. If you don't have access to taking those pictures and printing them, you can just write names of everybody in your family or close friends that are close to you that you see a lot. And this becomes a daily ritual at a certain time of the day. Maybe it's around dinner, maybe it's at night, where you talk about who in your family or close friends who might need wish well, who might we put close to our heart and wish them well. And you talk about that as a family. And the kindness tree could be a tree figure, or it could be something as simple as just some sticky notes that you put on your child's door or the refrigerator. And these are little notes or thoughts of things you notice the child or someone in the family do that was positive. These are great reminders to do, again, daily as a family. So it doesn't have to be fancy like this. But these are just ways that you can keep a positive intent and focus on the power of love. Remember, and we'll talk about this in the end as well, you cannot, whatever you have within your heart is what you offer to others. So keeping that thought of the power of love. And we're going to continue a little bit with Maureen and talk about the sixth power of conscious parenting.
Thanks, Jackie. Yes, my focus is going to be the power of attention. So whatever we focus on, we get more of. So our goal is to create images of expected behavior in a child's brain. So we want to focus on what we want our children to do and not what we don't want them to do. So this visual here of we want to highlight the good behavior, and we have to do that by telling our child our expectations. So we're going to kind of dig into that a little deeper and see what that looks like. So we often focus on what we don't want to happen, or we focus on what the child is doing wrong. So our goal is we want to teach and tell the child what we want to see. Our goal is to also teach a new skill. So this was a little bit hard for me at first. I really had to shift and change how I looked at behavior, how I responded to behavior. And of course, it's still an ongoing thing, but I'm trying, and it's really been beneficial for my family. So instead of saying don't or no or stop, we're going to kind of shift, and we're going to tell the child what we want to see so we can continuously teach them a new skill. So there's a few examples here. It was actually provided by Conscious Discipline, and we're just going to kind of dig into these and see how we can apply these. So the first one is stop hitting your sister. So they suggest try when you want your sister to move, say move please. The second example is don't run. So you might try walk, watch me. And then the third one is stop yelling. And this one's my favorite, match your voice to mine. And as you're saying that, you're also using a calming tone. I think it helps us as adults when we do that. It brings our voice and our calmness down. And then of course it will help our kiddos. So I wanted to point out too, you want to keep in mind the age of your child. So that first example there, it has a lot of, that's an 8 to 10 word sentence. So if you have a younger child that's maybe 2 or 3 years old, You maybe wouldn't say, when you want your sister to move, say, move, please. You might scale it back based on the age of your child. So just keep that in mind when we're giving those examples, and use what works best for your kiddos and your family. This was a slide that Jackie had found. It was super helpful. This would be a great slide to take a snapshot of, take a picture of. It gives some really good examples of how to kind of shift how we talk to our kiddos. So a few examples here. Be quiet. We could try, can you use a softer voice? We're telling them the behavior we want to see. We're reinforcing it. Further down, it says, you're okay. So instead of that, maybe we try, how are you feeling when the child is upset? So this might be a good strategy to maybe pick 2 of these and try to apply. I know that was helpful for me. I kind of had a focus on maybe changing my language or shifting with specific examples. And I thought this was a really good handout for that. So focus on what you want your child to do and not what you don't want them to do. So they don't always know our expectations. So we need to tell them what we expect. And they need lots of reminders. So it's helpful to clearly and simply state what you expect the child to do. They're very little, they're still learning. So this isn't something that's going to happen automatically. This is a skill we're going to teach over time, and then you'll see that it continuously will work. So here, we want to use visuals and pictures. And the reason behind that is we want them to hear it, we want them to see it, and then they're going to practice it. So kind of that multi-sensory learning. So let's look at this picture here of these 2 kiddos. The first one is a little girl. She's running across the parking lot. When I see that, I think that it's unsafe. She's not with a caregiver or an adult. We want her to be doing what the other picture is. We want her to be safe. We want her to be holding her mom or her grandma or caregiver's hand. And we want to teach that skill. So an example would be, instead of opening the car door and letting your child get out and hope that they don't run across the parking lot, we are going to tell them our expectation. I expect you to hold my hand. And then we're going to show them a visual. So an easy way you can do that is have somebody take a picture of you and your child walking. You could just use a Google clip art image like I used here. So before you unbuckle their car seat, you tell them, you show them, and then hopefully they will, with repetition, follow that safety thing for you. And of course, you can apply this strategy to any struggle you're having in your day. So if a child is getting out of their bed often, you can take a picture of them in their bed and tell them, I expect you to stay in your bed. It's safe. And then you show them a picture. So kind of using that where they hear it and they see it, it helps them understand your expectation. So another strategy is to help your child visualize what you want. So here's an example of this cute little guy picking up blocks. And you might walk into the room and say, how nice, you put all your blocks in the bin. That is a super specific compliment for this child. We didn't say good job or good boy. We pointed out the specific behaviors that we liked and we're reinforcing them. This is hard again. I actually noticed myself the other night at soccer practice saying good job 100 times. It's very easy. It's very repetitive. Once again, it's a shift, being aware of it and then trying to apply it when you can. So the good or the praise can be in your positive tone rather than in the vocabulary we use. So the example here is a little bit of a longer quote, but it's really a good quote. It says, sincere, behavior-specific, descriptive praise is more meaningful and motivating for children and can have positive effects on their behavior. So thank you for being good doesn't describe what behavior we want to repeat. We want him to continuously help pick up and put the blocks away. So by giving him that specific praise, we hope that that will reinforce that behavior for the future. So I thought this slide was interesting. It says it's estimated that we have 70,000 thoughts per day and 80% are negative. That's probably been true over the last year. It's been a weird time, but I think it's just a reminder that before we can help our own kiddos, we have to be conscious and mindful of our own thoughts. And then we can notice the positive actions of our kiddos and give that specific and concise praise. Example here I had at my house a couple of weeks ago, we had those freezing cold temperatures. I walked into a room that my kiddos had been playing in, and there was a huge mess. In my mind, I wanted to say, wow, what happened here? This is a huge mess. Instead, I stopped, I kind of shifted my focus, and I thought in my head, they sat here and played with Legos and Barbies. And instead, I responded with, it looks like you had fun. It's time to clean up in 5 minutes. So after that transitional warning, I kind of stated the expectation of what was going to happen. So that is just an example of being, as an adult, conscious of how we respond. So when you're upset, we often focus on what we don't want. We're not in a problem-solving brain state. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can just be aware that you're upset, and then you can pivot. You can do this by taking those deep breaths or whatever self-regulating thing helps you calm down. And then kind of refocus on that positive action you want. We want to help our child visualize. Visualization can be especially useful in thinking about how to handle a problem. We want our kiddos to become problem solvers, so let them help you come up with a solution. And then my example with my kiddos and cleaning the toys, I held them accountable. Let's pick up 5 toys and put them in the bin, just like this. So I showed them, I told them, and then I helped them. So over time, eventually, hopefully that will become a good routine. And then a summary is of power of attention and power of love. Just what we offer to kids, they're going to use and teach to the next generation and the next. So these aren't skills that we're just teaching right now when they're 2 or 3. These are skills that we're hoping to implement for long term. We cannot change a child's behavior until we see the child differently. Like Jackie was saying, think of the child through the lens, that positive lens. And then I love this. Assume all misbehavior is a call for help. When we look at it through that lens, it helps us help them. We show up, we offer them positive intent, we lift them to those higher centers of the brain, and we keep ourselves at those high centers too. And then, of course, we want to reinforce those positive behaviors. So I'm going to go ahead and end the slideshow now, and hopefully, let's see here. We are going to be live next Tuesday, March 16th at 2 o'clock. And we're going to do kind of a question and answer. If you want to go ahead and take a picture of that slide, that will be a good way to connect with us and hopefully answer maybe more specific questions you will have. We appreciate your time and listening in. We hope the information was helpful. So,
absolutely. Thank you. We're so excited to visit with you next Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.